Greetings, historians. Welcome to Lore of the Dragon. Time is a funny thing. Some might even consider it unwieldy and confusing. However, this seems to not be the case for some within the Legend of Spyro. Dragon time is not an explored ability of Spyro in terms of its extent of power. Its limits are unknown, and origin is the same. But perhaps today we can compile all cases of it ever being wielded and come up with some answers. Time, as most of you might already know, is a continuous force of which is always moving forward. We measure time in seconds, minutes, years, and so on. Some of you might not know, however, that time travel is sort of possible and has already technically been achieved. If you've ever been on a plane, you technically could have done it by a minuscule amount. Originally, it was theorized by Albert Einstein that time is relative and can be altered by speed. Then, two astronomers at the United States Naval Observatory, Joseph Hafele and Richard Keating, put together an experiment to test this once more in 1971. Others had confirmed this theory, however, they wished to test the theory with more accuracy than the earlier tests. Multiple atomic clocks, which are extremely accurate, had been used, some in the observatory and others with Hafele and Keating. They then would go on commercial planes and compared the numbers and found out indeed those on the plane, although by a minuscule amount, and I mean by nanoseconds, had been pushed into the future by the speed of the aircraft. What has been theorized from there is that if you were to travel near the speed of light, given you were in a vacuum, to the nearest star 2 hours, Alpha Centauri, and back, given the 4.5 light years there and 4.5 light years back, everything on Earth would seem to have aged a noticeable amount, though I don't know the exact numbers of how far you would have been pushed through time. Given the theory of relativity and time dilation, if we were going by that theory alone, we could say that the ability Dragon Time gives Spyro is for him to go extremely fast compared to everything else. But I highly doubt that's happening because a bunch of strange stuff would happen before that. And I'm pretty sure that no individual can or has traveled the speed of light in the Legend of Spyro. But again, through the power of magic and an individual known as the Chronicler, the purple dragon Spyro comes into the possession of Dragon Time, the means to manipulate time in ways untold. But he isn't the first to wield it. That fact is unknown to me. From what I can piece together, the first theoretical cases of time being manipulated would be in the tales of the chroniclers, individuals of which, when a dragon possesses the title, is assigned to be a record keeper to most of dragon history. However, there have been dragons who have a sensitivity to time, which was only recorded in a group of 4 called the Guardians. Ignitus, the Fire Guardian. Both Ignitus and the Chroniclers had the ability to see into different places, or see through space, though in Ignitus' case it was with the help of something called the Pool of Visions. But they share a very similar ability in which they can see into the future, though the Chroniclers can do this more so, at least it's implied. This is most likely what leads to the creation of prophecies, such as the prophecy of the Purple Dragon. Who saw what would become the prophecy is unknown, but perhaps it could have been a Chronicler or a time-sensitive dragon. A side note is that, like our own world, time and space seem to work in tandem, both an element and as a rule of that universe. Ignitus can see through space and through time with this sensitivity of his, and in the case I'll explain later, it seems that time and space are often not disconnected. There haven't been any other recorded cases of individuals having this time sensitivity, but there is nothing to say that Ignitus was an exception. It was only mentioned that his peers didn't seem to have this ability. However, unlike the Chronicler, these dragons don't have the ability to impart their sensitivity onto others. The Chronicler seemed to have this to a certain degree, as the Chronicler at the time gave Spyro the ability to slow down time using Dragon Time, although later Spyro shows different abilities that come out of Dragon Time. Dragon Time is not something that has been presently used as a breath weapon, rather it has been projected as lead concept artist for A New Beginning and the Eternal Night Jared Polin has stated. And nothing really was written about the ability. It even, unlike the other more conventional elements, doesn't even have a symbol to go along with it, like fire or even aether. We know it can slow down time, and even create a time crystal, such as the one Spyro creates to save Cinder, himself, and Sparks from the collapsing mountain of Malifor. This time crystal would be formed by what is referred to as a time fury, which suspends the user and those around them in a stasis supposedly. Now, in Dawn of the Dragon, it does seem like Spyro, Sparks, and Cinder have aged, but compared to others in regards to size, it seems that Spyro and Cinder hadn't grown at all, but it's said that they would have aged from the time they were in the crystal. So somehow the crystal put them in a deep sleep and let their bodies grow with no real consequence. Yet, they're about the same size as they were, in comparison to everyone else, as they were when they were younger. I'm just going to say the reason why this works is because magic, and I'm going to leave it at that. Anyhow, back to the crystal. It has an amber or yellow color when it's formed, literally manifesting time into what seems to be a physical form. Supposedly, this can protect anyone inside it from harm as it creates a hard shell, preventing even the person inside of it from being crushed by a mountain. But at the same time, can be broken by a simple tool, which I will say is a pretty strange ability, and technically there's stuff in real life that can do that, but I don't think that's happening here. Now, Spyro was told by the chronicler the ability of dragging time was a dangerous one, and should only be used in the utmost urgency. So perhaps Spyro's powers extend beyond just forming a crystal out of time. Perhaps this crystal could have allowed them to live in stasis forever, or perhaps it has some unknown ability. Now, it's not just individuals who possess strange time-related properties. In fact, one of the most famous cases might be the abode of the chroniclers, the White Isle. This place has strange properties. It seems to be an unknown part of the world, and the chroniclers can be eons old, it seems. Perhaps it's dragging time, perhaps there's some other external force that's keeping the White Isle hidden from everyone and the chronicler alive. We don't know. Though, there is another place that shares strange time-related properties. While the backstory's canon to the world can be called into question, as it wasn't really part of the games and it was told after the games came out, it is said that Pyro, the battle squire for Ignitus, had washed up on a chain of isles after being lost to the sea. It was said by Jared Paulin that these isles gave Pyro strange abilities, and I quote, "Suffice it to say that those abilities pertain somewhat to space-time, but more so to breaking the laws of nature, and cheating death itself." Now, the circumstances giving Pyro these abilities might not have been the work of Dragon Time, however, what would have been were his abilities. So, a recap. Dragon Time is an element that, while it can be wielded, it is said to be a risky power to possess. It is projected, not exhaled like other elements, and its powers range from seeing through space and time to possibly cheating death. Yeah, there's not exactly a limit to this one. So, the next time you see or hear of the term Dragon Time, you'll know what power this ability actually has. Except for the possibly cheating death part. We're not quite sure on that since it's not exactly canon. But what about Dragon Time coming back? Should it? Could it? And what would I think it might look like? Or how would I want it to work? Though it might be a little powerful, I think it should come back as well. I do enjoy some convoluted time plots. As for if I think it could come back, it seems more likely than ever that Dragon Time could come back in some way. Although, to what extent I guess will be determined by the adventure Spyro is on. It seems that any developers of Crash and Spyro have paid more attention to past versions of the series, so it would not surprise me to see Dragon Time come back given the chance. And really, if it does come back, I think it will take the form of something like Crash Force Time ability, somewhat, though I imagine there will be some ideas pulled from the Legend of Spyro. I think it would have abilities like slowing down time and all, but if it had the ability to create a time crystal, maybe the ability could be that you put yourself in a time crystal and it reverts your health back to what it was before. I don't know, maybe that's how it could work. As for how I'd want it to work, honestly, similar to that of the Legend of Spyro's version would be nice. Although I would like for the ability to be more something akin to being able to change how Spyro would manipulate time. Maybe change the duration of how long slowing down time would last. And maybe add some nice little tidbits of lore to add onto time to make it a bit more of a deeper ability when it comes to the story. That's enough about what I think. What about you? Would you want Dragon Time or time-related abilities to come back to Spyro? Let me know in the comments below. And with that being said, that will be all for me. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you to everyone who has liked and commented the videos over the years, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed. And if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to stick around and subscribe yourself. And a big thank you to those on Patreon, those giving me red gems, such as Abyssal Blue and Life Fever 100, those giving me red and green gems, like Jabby, and those giving me blue gems, like Kiasu Shin and Shaggy. Again, thank you, thank you. It's not mandatory, of course. It is very nice, though, and it's very, very generous, and I greatly appreciate it. Anyhow, again, that'll be all for me. I'll see you all the next time we talk about lore and speculate. Stay safe, historians.